Hi everybody, thanks for joining us. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Peter Llewellyn. I run the services at MedComms, and the associated websites. So you'll find services, activities, information resources and so on freely available to anyone that works in the global MedComms community, by which I mean people who work in and around medical communications, medical education, medical publishing, related businesses, and indeed anyone else who's interested, and in particular people who might be interested in MedComms as a career. These activities and services should be useful to you, but specifically you've got a resource, firstmedcommsjob.com, which is worth having a look at. Lots of information about the business and how to get in. You'll find lots and lots of these sorts of recordings of webinars like this at NetworkPharma TV as well. There's 400 plus videos now of various sorts in there, so there's a good resource there to go and have a look at. So lots of information to go and have a look at. Today I'm absolutely delighted that we've got the guys from Fishawack, and we're going to be talking about training and career development. And I'm not going to say any more. I'm going to hand over to Sue to introduce herself, but we're basically going to have a presentation and then a Q&A. So those of you in the audience, do use the chat box and the Q&A box to send in your comments and questions, and we'll weave that into the Q&A at the end. But Sue, over to you.
Thanks, Peter. I thought we'd start by introducing the team. So my name is Susan Brackenridge. I'm Scientific Services Training Director here at Fishawack Health. I've been in the company for about 4 years. Prior to that, I was a freelancer for 10 years. And prior to that, I was with Fishawack. So I've come back to the company. So I've been a medical writer for over 20 years, and I've always really enjoyed writing. But I've also enjoyed training medical writers and seeing them grow. So my role has evolved over that 20 years to where I am today. So that's me. I'll hand over to Lucy to introduce herself.
Thanks, Sue. Hi, I'm Lucy B, and I'm the Medical Writer Training Programme Director at Fishawack Health. So prior to pivoting into the career experience team, I was a medical writer at Fishawack for 9 years. So a living, breathing example of how the company encourages career development and internal mobility. And previous to Fishawack, my background is all academia. So a BSc, PhD and postdoc in the field of neuroscience at UCL. Over to you, Amy.
Thanks, Lucy. So I'm Amy Jackson. I'm a Senior Editorial Director based in our Abingdon office, just south of Oxford. I'm actually sat about 5 meters away from Sue, who's in a different room for technical reasons. So I've been at Fishawack for about 15 years in total. I started off as a senior medical writer, stayed with the company for about 10 years, went somewhere else for a couple of years, and now I'm back again. So it's testament to what a great company it is. Basically, my job involves looking after a large team of writers, line managing them, looking after their professional development, making sure they've got enough work to do, not too much. But also I do some writing as well and reviewing. And actually my academic background is in biological anthropology, which I'd like to say was completely useless for this job. Absolutely useless, not used it one iota. But it just goes to show that we're kind of interested in people's brains rather than what they know. So there you go. And I'll hand over to Emily.
Thanks, Amy. Hi, everybody. I'm Emily Singletary, the Career Experience Manager at Fishawack, and I'm based in Cheshire. I had a rather unconventional route into MedComms, as my background is actually in performing arts, but I've worked in the industry for 8 years and have been with Fishawack for the last 3 years. My MedComms career to date has been within client service, account management and project management, but I've recently enjoyed a career pivot into the career experience team at Fishawack, and I'm really excited to be a part of all the exciting new initiatives and platforms that we're launching this year. Thanks so much. Sue, back over to you.
Thanks, Emily. Okay. Okay, so I thought today we're going to be talking to you about training and career development at Fishawack Health. So I thought I'd start by giving you a little introduction to the company. So what drives us? What's our passion? What's our vision? Well, we imagine a healthier world and create the connections to make it happen. So we're one of the largest independent specialist healthcare partners in the world with over 1,300 employees. We have offices at several locations in the UK and in the US on the east and west coast and in the middle. We work with many of the top 20 big pharma companies, but we also work with biotech and wellbeing companies. So when Fishawack started out back in 2001, we were purely medical communications agency. But since that time, we've grown and we've evolved, and now we have several capabilities across the company. So we have capabilities in consulting, value evidence and access, digital and analytics, and marketing. So say you joined as a medical writer. As you progress in your career, you get more experience and become more senior. You might become interested in some of these other aspects in the company, and there is the opportunity for you to move in the direction you would like to take. So I've introduced Fishawack. Now I'm going to introduce Tarik. So Tarik is a fictional writer who's just joined Fishawack as an entry-level writer. So his training will be centered around STEPS, which is supporting training and enhancing professional skills. So there are 3 pillars to this. The first pillar is our training programs, which are flexible and tailored and supported by e-learning. So say you had a training session on abstracts, then there will be a supporting e-learning that you can go and take as well. Also, right from day one, Tarik will be working on live projects, so we'll get on the job training and extensive feedback. And finally, there's the mentoring aspect from line managers and the team is working on, and also across the company, because anybody in Fishawack who's senior can become a mentor. So this is really an overview of Tarik's career journey. So he'll start with some onboarding, and then he'll start as a medical writer and he'll go on the STEPS Foundation program. So as he works his way up and becomes more senior, become a senior medical writer, and to help him with that transition, we have the STEPS Advanced program. Then, as he becomes more senior, gets more experience, he has a choice of becoming an associate principal medical writer if he likes the science aspect, but also he can become an editorial project lead. And we have the STEPS Ascend program, which helps with that transition. So looking into the future, there are 3 different paths that he could take, depending on what interests him. He can take the science path, he can take the management path, or if he likes working with clients, he can take the client business path. So whichever path he takes, though, he will get the chance to go on our Compass training program, which is will be training Tarik on strategy. But right from the beginning, as well as all these training programs, we have the career experience team who will be supporting Tarik. So the 3 steps training programs generally follow the same format, though there are differences between them. So they're around about 6 to 8 weeks. There are 2 to 3 short training sessions per week. And as I said, they're supported by e-learning. At the moment, it's run by Zoom, but we're looking to sort of work in some live sessions and move to a hybrid model. So let's get back to Tarik. So he's done his onboarding. It's time for him to go onto the STEPS Foundation program. So I will hand over to Lucy.
Thanks, Sue. Yeah, so Sue's already said Tarik, like all entry-level medical writers starting at Fishawack Health, is enrolled into the STEPS Foundation program, which I'll go into in a second. But before then, I've listed here some key ingredients for what makes not only a good medical writer, but a great medical writer. And the top row, so education, basic skill set, passion, and ambition are what the individual can bring to the role. Whilst the bottom row, which is training, hands-on experience, access to mentors and coaches, and a company that values and encourages personal and professional development, is what Fishawack Health can offer new starters to enable them to excel in their new role and also further down the line to achieve their career goals. So next slide, thank you, Sue. So linking this to the STEPS Foundation program, another important ingredient for becoming a great medical writer is time. And not least time for training. So unlike the format that Sue showed for most of the STEPS programs, the STEPS Foundation program is run for 2 weeks at the exclusion of live project work, so that writers don't have to be checking in on emails working on projects, delivering projects to clients in parallel with their training. Instead, their focus for this 2 weeks can be participating with the other writers in these interactive sessions that are led by internal and external trainers. The objectives of the foundation programme are to introduce new writers to each other and to other colleagues from across the company. So Sue said that we've got many offices in different locations, so it's quite nice to meet virtually other colleagues. To give the writers an overview of the pharmaceutical industry and Fishawack Health processes, teach basic medical writing skills, and provide an understanding and practical experience of common project types. So, for example, manuscripts, posters, abstracts, infographics, and things like that. Slightly reiterating what I've already said, the training sessions cover content that ranges from processes to compliance, to introducing med affairs via the basics of good medical writing, so some grammar and style, with just enough data interpretation and statistics thrown into there as well. Within the 2-week schedule, there's also sufficient time to complete some self-paced e-learning, and also for the writers to complete some assignments. So it's such a heavy word, assignment, and I didn't know whether to include it, but what I mean is that the writers can work on some dummy projects and deliverables, such as drafting the outline of a primary paper or incorporating client comments into a poster, so that they feel more ready to do these things in real life when they're working on their accounts. There's also some bite-sized exercises which typically take about 20 to 30 minutes to complete and are best done straight after the relevant training session to reinforce the learning. So I mark the work that the writers send and provide some feedback to highlight their strengths and also make them aware of things that, you know, might need a little bit more work or support, and things to remember for when they work on projects on their accounts in the real world. I'm also sure to check in with writers to see that everything's going okay, things are clear, they're getting on okay, or whether they need some extra support. So I've outlined the objectives for the foundation programme, and here I end by listing some of the key missions of the programme, which indeed are the principles of getting the best out of people. And this includes to give regular support, to provide direction, to encourage involvement, to give praise, and hopefully to be a good role model. And ultimately to introduce the writers to an environment that encourages growth and includes the principles of inclusion and challenge. So the hope is that after the end of this 2 weeks, Tarik, like all the new writers, will be a confident medical writer and feel comfortable asking questions when things are unclear or a brief doesn't make sense, or he's not sure how to do something. So that eventually, after enough exposure, which is another key ingredient of becoming a good medical writer and links to hands-on experience, Tarik's line manager will suggest that on the basis of his skills and performance, Tarik should be promoted to the role of senior medical writer. So I'll hand over to Amy as she talks through the advanced programme.
Okay, thanks, Lucy. So yeah, here's Tarik again. He's still looking very studious, looking like he could be a star of a Specsavers advert. And now he's been with us, let's say, for about 18 months. He's doing really, really well. He's really benefited from Lucy's foundation course. He's gone through a massive learning curve. But I'd say now he can write well. He's beginning to lead his own projects. He's loved by his team. He sends lots of gifts. He feels comfortable working with everyone. You know, he knows how to work with the different departments and knows Fishawack process. So his line manager suggested he might like to go on the advanced course, and he's a keen bean, so he's going to do that. So we kind of developed the advanced course for writers just about ready for the next step up from medical writer. So people on the cusp of being senior medical writers, or maybe have just been promoted. So people like Tarik. And it's important to emphasise, even though I mentioned the 18 months, that people don't get promoted just based on how long they've been here. It's a case of whether or not they're ready. And so for some people, particularly I think those with prior work experience, they might develop more quickly, and others may struggle just with certain aspects of the role for a bit longer. So it's all based on merit. But the step up to senior medical writer is quite a milestone in a writing career. So really, the essence of a medical writer, senior medical writer, is that they know how to get things done. And unlike when they first start, they also know what they don't know. But most importantly, they're considered a safe pair of hands. And it's that sense, sort of based on team feedback, our account team feedback, which really indicates to us when they're ready to move up to senior medical writer. So if you want to move on. So the objectives of the course are these, and obviously the overarching objective really is to help writers transition to a more senior role and to make them aware of the expectations that come with that role. We also aim to strengthen their technical abilities, because at this stage, although they can sort of write, they can definitely write, that's great. But writing is sort of a craft and it's never really mastered. So we do more writing stuff. And we also provide some guidance on some of the soft skills needed to really excel in an agency environment. How to work a team and deal with sort of more challenging clients, that kind of thing. We also aim to introduce writers to more complex project types. So maybe they're ones with lots of different stakeholders, lots of different moving parts, or more strategically complex projects that they might have just done a little bit of before, but it's to give them an overarching view of it. So if we move on, here are some sort of sessions that we offer. So there's costing projects, how to develop good budgets, a really excellent session called The Dark Arts of Medical Writing, run by myself. And because senior writers are expected to brief out work and then review it when it comes back, we focus on that quite a bit as well. Time management masterclass is very popular because, as you all know, time is a very precious commodity, particularly when you're sort of got lots of competing priorities. So that's a great course. We also run effective client management, and we have an external trainer who comes in and does a session on storytelling, which really helps sort of elevate people's writing, making sure the narrative is there and their writing is always compelling. And there's more statistics, which sounds a bit dull, but everyone loves it when they do it. Really interesting. And I should probably mention again that these sessions are run over like 6 to 8 weeks, and it only takes up like a couple of hours a week for these writers because they're really embedded in their teams. We don't want it to take them too much away from their live work. But the sessions are planned so that they can fit in with their live work. And I think that's it. Over to you, Sue.
Okay, thanks, Amy. So Tarik's doing really well, as Amy said, and now it's time for him to go on to the STEPS Ascend programme. So just a reminder where that fits within the career pathway. So Tarik started as a medical writer and then became a senior writer. And now he has the choice of becoming an associate principal medical writer or an editorial project lead. And the STEPS Ascend programme will help support that transition from the senior medical writer to the next step. So Tarik will be working on projects, he'll be working on writing projects, but he will be working on more projects than before. He'll be managing them. He'll be having a much more client contact than before, but also his responsibilities are going to expand. So he will be involved in resource management, resourcing projects, and also reviewing more junior writers and mentoring them. So we'll get some training on that. Also, as I mentioned right back at the start, Fishawack isn't just a medical communications agency, but we also have other capabilities such as consultancy. So he'll be given some insight into these different aspects of the company. And finally, we'll provide him with information on clarity on which of those 3 pathways that I mentioned, which of those he would like to take in the future. But it's not set in stone because he can choose whichever direction he wants to take and move different directions if that's what he wants to do. So here's some example content. As I said, Tarik will be involved in resource management, so we'll get some training on that and training on mentoring and help with presentation skills. We'll have some training on that. And also there'll be more of an introduction into strategy, which is becoming more important in the pharmaceutical industry. So linking to strategy, so it's time now, Tarik's become quite senior, that he's going to attend the Compass. So Compass is for the Senior Scientific and Client Service team, and it is the complete guide to medical planning and scientific strategy. So it's really a deep dive into strategy and learning all the different aspects of that. For example, how to create a scientific platform. And the idea is to give Tarik the skills and the confidence to lead strategic projects. So as I mentioned earlier on, all the way through, Tarik has been supported by the Career Experience team. So I'm now going to hand over to Emily, who's going to talk more about that.
Great, thanks so much, Sue, and thanks Lucy and Amy as well for demonstrating Tarik's journey. Okay, so career experience at Fishawack then. Let's tell you a little bit more about some of the elements that we do within the Career Experience team. Thank you, Sue. Okay, so first of all, we wanted to talk a little bit about our company values, because everything we do at Fishawack feeds back into our 5 core company values. These are: we are authentic, we value difference, we own the challenge, we play for the team, and we enjoy the journey. And we try to bring these elements in through whatever we do at Fishawack. So to give you a little bit more information on those, so we are authentic, we're straightforward in our relationships, we're transparent in our communications, and we're genuine in our actions. And we value difference across the company. We treat everybody with empathy and humility, fostering a culture that is equitable, purposeful, diverse, and inclusive. And we play for the team because we believe that together we achieve so much more. And by bringing our best selves to all that we do, we own the challenge, combining expertise with a can-do attitude and personal accountability. And we enjoy the journey because every day we're inspired by our teams, our work, and the opportunity to be a part of creating a healthier world. So as I mentioned, everything we do at Fishawack feeds back into these 5 core company values, and we encourage, support, and enable our employees to recognise and reward the fantastic work that they do, both on a professional and a personal level. So now I'd like to introduce you to our new career experience platform, Fuel 50, which we rolled out earlier on this year. So at Fishawack, we want to offer all of our employees a purposeful and personalised career full of growth, learning, opportunities and challenges. And the Fuel 50 career development platform enables us to monitor, support and improve the overall employee experience through investing in our employees' training and development. So your career reimagined and powered by the Fuel 50 platform. So we'll go into a little bit more detail about what this means. So within Fuel 50, there are 6 main areas that we like to focus on. These are journeys, so that could be your career pathway, personalisation, objectives, feedback, mobility and growth. And just to go into those in a little bit more detail, what the capabilities of Fuel 50 are include: you can set your career goals and performance objectives, both as an individual and with your line manager. The Fuel 50 platform uses AI technology. It's very up and coming, and it can plot a career path to any role within Fishawack Health. So for example, if you wanted to go from a project management role into a career experience manager role, it enables you to do that. And you can create a personalised profile through career engages, values and purpose, identifying what matters to you, what's important to you as an individual. And of course, we have performance management and focused colleague feedback. And this is something that we encourage on a quarterly basis. So rather than having the typical 360 annual reviews, we encourage linemen and managers and line reports to have those career conversations on a regular basis and be getting that feedback from their peers continuously to continue learning and growing. And we allow the opportunity to level up in skills through training and connecting with mentors. And as Sue mentioned earlier on in the presentation, anyone across the company can be a mentor. And role mobility. So again, this feeds back into that pathway, having access to vacancies and opportunities across the company. Thank you, Sue. So the three main areas we like to focus on in career experience are career, performance, and talent. And as I say, your career can be reimagined through the Fuel 50 platform. This is the place where you as an employee can unleash your potential and take action to make each day an amazing success. The Fuel 50 platform allows you to set your professional course and navigate a unique and exciting career journey so that you as an individual can continue to grow, learn, and enjoy your Fishawack experience. And if you have a look at the screenshot at the bottom, that gives you a small example of how you can maneuver from a medical writer to a senior medical writer in medical. So this again demonstrates that growth, that pathway, so that every employee has a clear, identifiable pathway to getting onto that next level with the number of moves and the different opportunities needed to get there. Thank you, Sue. And we also focus on live learning, e-learning and training opportunities within Fishawack in three main areas, which I'm going to talk about now. So we have live learning. These are live learning sessions held throughout the year that are accessible through a training request form that we have on another platform within the company. And this includes self-serve sign-ups, making live learning as accessible as possible. And it might be that that's an internally led seminar, or it might be that we have an expert-led external training provider who comes into the company as well. So employees can access the CXP training request form via the Fuel 50 platform and schedule exploratory calls if they aren't quite sure about what training might be appropriate for them. They can express interest in the existing course that we've maybe run before or might have coming up, or they can sign up for a future training as well. And with a range of training materials, resources and programs, including fantastic access to Coursera with over 2,000 courses available. That's something new that we've recently rolled out to our teams. Employees can access on-demand learning when they need it. Perfect, thank you so much. Sue, I'm going to hand back to you to close out our presentation.
Thanks, Emily. So just to finish, so if you want to find out more about medical writing training at Fishawack Health or career opportunities, then head over to our website, our careers page, or you can contact Lucy or myself or the career experience team there. Okay, then, thank you, everybody. So let me just stop sharing.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks. That's absolutely excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you. And to the members of the audience who are here online today, do use your chat box or your Q&A box to send us some questions, and we've had some, and we'll start to weave those into the conversation. Can I cover off several quick points quickly? And at this point, I always have to take my life in my hands slightly because I've missed the points that you said right at the beginning, so apologies. Can I just cover off? We've talked very much about the medical writing side. I don't think you mentioned, but what happens if you come in on the client service side, say as a starter at an entry level? Can you just clarify that, Sue?
Well, I'm really focusing here today on the medical writing aspects.
Sure.
Can't really comment on that side of it. Okay.
That being said, though, again, with the career experience platform and the training opportunities we have, if someone came in as a client services director, for example, and they decided perhaps they had that scientific background and they fancied a change, wanted to move over to the medical writing side of the company, they could explore that pathway within Fuel 50 to understand how far away they were from that role and what they needed to do in order to get there.
Okay, sorry if I'm pushing a little bit on this one, but you do take people at entry level on the client services account management side, don't you?
Absolutely, yeah, we do.
Okay, so all right, so
they have an onboarding experience as well, and
of their own. Okay,
they've got access to all the courses, e-courses and things like that, and then they're supported by the career experience team. I don't think their training program's quite as comprehensive as we do. Okay.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot here. I just think in terms of people watching this, there's going to be obvious questions like, does this apply to people who don't come as a medical writer? So, okay, so you've got training across the board. I mean, as a general point, and to put some context on this, I mean, I get into a little trouble sometimes saying this, but, going back a long time, you know, people would come into MedComms and it was very much on the job training and just get on with it sort of thing. Whereas over the last few years, we've seen a lot of you develop programs that have become quite formalized and comprehensive like this. I think that's a really good reflection on MedComms. I think it's a really good reflection on all the agencies within MedComms that we've gone in that direction. I think it's an inevitability because the business has just matured sort of thing. But I think it's worth acknowledging that, you know, in MedComms, there is a lot of concentration now on supporting people and learning and development. But what you just presented was an extremely comprehensive program. To, again, just be a little bit flippant about this, but this hasn't just come out of nowhere, has it? I mean, this has been developed. I know Fishawack has been working on this sort of stuff for quite a long time. Having said that, the last couple of years, has it accelerated the development of these training programs as you've had to deal with people remotely and so on? Is that a fair point to make, or were you just accelerating through this process anyway? You got a comment on that?
Well, yeah, I'll take that one. So steps, I think it's probably about 2007, 2018. So, you know, we've been thinking about training for quite a few years in Fishawack, and I joined in 2018. So I think it hasn't accelerated, it's changed. We used to do training, but we'd have 2 days, we'd get everybody together in a room. So when the pandemic came, we sort of pivoted and started doing it virtually because we had to. And I think that's helped because especially having the writers, you know, across the world, it just helps having the virtual to get everybody together. So I think it has accelerated a bit, but I think it's just changed basically because of the pandemic.
Okay, anyone else got a comment on that in terms of the digital type nature of what's going on at the moment? Just as a reflection on what's happening.
I'm just wondering, Peter, if I could go back to your earlier point about onboarding.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah.
People coming in at entry level, regardless of what level of experience you're coming into the company. We do have a global onboarding 90-day program for all new starters, and we are looking at implementing a leveled system. So if we have people coming in entirely new to the industry, never mind to a role, we have specific 90-day onboarding training for those coming in entirely new, and then looking at those coming in at a slightly more experienced level, perhaps coming from a different agency, right through to those who have got several years of experience behind them as well. So we do have a tailored, personalised onboarding training program in place across the business as well.
Okay, I didn't notice that I asked that question actually, but okay, that's interesting. But it leads into another question which has come in a couple of times from people I'm seeing, but specifically, and sticking with the medical writing side, do you bring people in at an entry level at medical writer title or an associate medical writer?
We bring them all in as medical writers. As
medical writers. So just as a point, and just to get some context here, because people are looking at MedComms and looking at different agencies, the terminology varies and so on. So in many agencies, you come in as an associate or trainee medical writer, but you come in here as a medical writer. But the question that I think, Jodie, a couple of people might have asked, if someone's coming in maybe a postdoc type level or whatever, so they've got more type experience behind them, relevant but not directly relevant, so not coming from another agency, do they all come in at that same medical writer level and start at the same place, or can they jump and go, you know, I've got X years of academic experience, publications behind me, so on, therefore I come in at a higher level? Just give us a bit of a flavour for that. Because that's a question a lot of people will ask when they look at this business, if they're coming in from a slightly more advanced stage. Who'd like to take that one on? Amy?
I can.
Lucy.
So they start at the same entry level and, you know, would be enrolled in the STEPS Foundation programme. But you're right to kind of suggest that people that have got postdoc behind them might, you know, have honed their skills a little bit more, their writing skills. So in which case that would show up very easily. And we've had writers like that, you know, and so they would kind of move through the training a little bit quicker to secure their kind of promotion a little bit quicker, because it's all sort of that experience and exposure. The postdoc certainly helps, but I guess writing in academia is very different to writing for an agency. So it's still, everyone, just regardless of postdoc or whether just a degree, they still need to learn the tricks of the trade from things like a compliance point of view, processes, dealing with clients. All that stuff is brand new to them as much as it is brand new to someone with, you know, the degree. But, you know, there is certainly grounds for them to kind of fast track themselves to a more senior position.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's good. And because I think there's always this like tension, and I don't think it's a problem to keep talking about this. People with more experience coming in and sticking with the medical writing side specifically, but I've got loads of experience. I've written lots of stuff. I shouldn't have to start at the beginning. And my message is always, well, you've sort of got to accept the fact you're starting basics within a new business and learn the tricks like you're describing. And then there's an interesting point that you can move through the system quite quickly. And some people come out of academia or something where they're in bands where the only way they move up is because the person above them dies or retires or something sort of thing. Yeah. Whereas in the agency world we're talking about, if you come in and you work hard, frankly, and a little bit of luck and the right opportunities, but the right attitude, and you're good, then you can move quickly. And your previous experience can affect that. But I think it's important that the message is out there that by and large, people have to start at the start and move up. Is that a fair point? It looks like you want to say something. Sorry, go on, Amy. Go on.
I just think, I think that's a really fair point. And I think it's really important to realise that obviously you come in, if you've got someone who's just done a first degree even, compared to someone who's got like years of postdoc experience, they're actually doing the same job. So they should be paid the same and their progression will just depend on merit. So yeah, I think it's a fair point.
I mean, I was a postdoc before becoming a medical writer, and I've written many of my own papers, but I think it's very, very different writing your own papers than writing them for a client. And so you still got to learn all those principles just the same as someone who doesn't have a postdoc has to learn those principles.
One of my questions was going to be, again, I'm still focused on the medical writers, and they're coming in as a medical writer into a training position. You talked a lot about the sort of training activities, and I didn't actually hear, but maybe again I missed it. But how much do you teach people about the industry, the pharma industry, the drug development process, etc.? Because again, for most people, that would be new to them, wouldn't it? That must be an important part of that training program, is it?
Yeah, there's a session in the foundation programme introducing the writers to the pharmaceutical industry and to clients and to client services. So they have that introduction, a session also introducing them to med affairs, like what is med affairs, the principles behind strategy and why we do the things that we do. So not just doing them, but why do we do them? Where does it all fit into the strategy and the landscape, things like that. So there are sessions on that from the get-go.
Okay, there's a question in there somewhere about, I don't know whether you'll know this or not, but what's off the top of your head? What's your top 3 pieces of advice for someone at the very start of their medical writing career? A couple of you give your different bits of advice. Have you got something you can come out with there? What would you say? I'm putting you on the spot here. Go on, Amy.
I'd say they've got to have a growth mindset, so be prepared to learn lots quickly. So they've got to have like a passion to learn as well, and they've got to sort of be humble in a way, because they have to take an awful lot of feedback when they first start, both from sort of their colleagues, and also like things like the assignments that Lucy mentioned, but then also it's that client feedback they get as well. So they have to sort of be prepared to change what they've written a lot.
Yeah, be really thick-skinned, I think. Yeah,
be thick-skinned and just treat it all as a learning process.
Okay, but there's a very, very important point in there in terms of taking feedback and so on. And also, I mean, coupled with that, I suppose I would then quickly say, if you're looking at this as a business, wondering how it works, you're part of a team. I mean, some of this might sound a bit scary, but I mean, you're not just left there to get on with this. You're actually part of a team, and there's an awful lot of collaboration and support and so on. Partly through programs like this, but partly just on you're just in a team of people that are very supportive and collaborative, and that would apply across MedComms. Yeah. So you're getting a lot of help there. I'm trying to keep up with the questions as they're coming in. Sorry, we've got quite a few. I just wanted to go a bit more broader than this. And again, I don't know, we haven't set this up, and I don't want to put you on the spot here. But I do think it's very interesting what you've put there. It's very comprehensive and so on. And one of the points maybe we should put out there for context is a reminder that you started by talking about the fact you are one of the biggest communication groups like this. This is a comprehensive program within a large sort of communications group sort of thing. Lots of MedComms agencies are a lot smaller. So the sort of program we're talking about here is not the sort of thing you'll walk into at every agency. But generally, we've made this point, learning and support and development for individuals with MedComms has developed a lot over the last few years. Everybody's putting a lot of effort into it. But this is the question I want to get to, and you may or may not want to run with this for a moment. How do you benchmark what you're doing versus what other people within MedComms might or might not be doing? Is that a fair question?
Well, we see what everybody else is doing, but all the companies are so individual. And they have their own ways of working and their own systems. And I think we just have to go with what's best for the company and what's best for the writers coming in, most importantly. So I say all the different agencies. And so if somebody is thinking about joining an agency, it's really good, you know, to have a look around at them, because they all are completely different, have their own cultures, way of doing things, small agency, large agency. So that would be my advice if you're thinking of joining an agency.
Okay, no, but I think that's an important point in itself, and reinforces that you're all very different. Do you see, a question I get asked a lot is, you know, what course can I go on that will get me into MedComms? And I usually sort of laugh and go, there isn't a magic course sort of thing. But that's allied to a discussion about whether there ought to be some sort of academic qualification, say for medical writers or whatever. Again, I'm putting you on the spot slightly, but have you got a view on that sort of discussion? Would you see it positive or not? There are science, MSc, science communications type activity out there. I know there's been various people who've looked at more specifically medical communications, MedComms, medical writing type, MSc type qualifications. Do you see any value in that sort of discussion, which is happening out there, or not? Would you see it as a good thing or not? Or do you actually know anything out there that I don't know about? Because I don't think there is anything particularly out there at the moment. But have you got any views on any of that?
I think, I mean, those courses that you speak about, they cannot do it harm as such, but I think there's also a lot of value in on-the-job training, because you can learn a lot of things in theory, how things should be done, but actually things are very different in the real world when you're actually with a real client and things don't go, you know, as they're theoretically meant to. So I think, I don't know, I guess because it's the way that I've learned and got where I am, it's a combination of on-the-job training with, you know, these programs that are integrated into that. So I don't know, I just wonder if the courses are a little bit too theoretical, whereas more kind of practical on-the-job experience is very valuable too.
Okay, anyone else got a view on that? I mean, there isn't an MSc in medical communications, medical writing at the moment, but have anyone got a view on whether it would be useful or not?
I mean, obviously I'm not a medical writer, but my view, certainly from Fishawack's perspective, is that we are keen on harnessing and encouraging individuality. And so I think whilst there is a lot to be said for having a structured course which allows people to have that insight into the medical communications industry before going into an agency. I also think, like Lucy says, there is a lot of on-the-job learning, and particularly in other areas of the business as well. There are so many transferable skills and experience that is extremely valuable to the business and to our agency and to the wider MedComms industry, that can be taken from other careers and backgrounds. So I think it's a very interesting question, Peter. I don't know if Sue or Amy have any more thoughts on that from a writing perspective.
I think from a writing perspective, at the moment, if someone came to us with, like, if there was a course and they came with years, like an MSc or something, it wouldn't really put them ahead of anybody else. They'd still have to do the writing test and they'd still have to have an interview, and they might have spent like £9,000, and so it's just, it wouldn't sort of alone sort of give them a huge head start, I'd say. That's not to say that there isn't sort of an inherent value in this kind of thing, but in all honesty, okay. Yeah.
I'm not trying to push that one too hard, but I know there is a debate going on out there, and in the 15 years I've run MedComms networking, certainly it comes up every so often. You know, some university or whatever is looking at it. Someone's trying to do something. I know the debate's going on, so it's just interesting to hear your views, and don't entirely disagree with what you're saying. And whatever's done, it then becomes very much about what's right within your agency, and you doing the training that's right for your agency and so on, almost independent of what anybody else has had externally from another agency or academic or whatever. It's about what's right for you and you developing the people to work. So I get all of that. I was just interested to see where you take that one. Okay, so look, we've got a number of questions. I'm gonna have to draw a line on that one, on this one though. In terms of the recording today, I'd like to, the members of the audience, don't rush away because we have got 10 minutes and we will cover off some of these other questions. But I think just generally speaking, that was a really interesting and comprehensive presentation of what you're doing at Fishawack, which is interesting. I think we're making the point that within MedComms, we've come a long way over the last few years in terms of providing training and support for people. And people are looking at MedComms as a career. I think it's now very obvious there are real career pathways, learning support and so on is there, which it wasn't when I started many years ago. And that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. Okay. And then the point that you're making, which is absolutely important, you talked about what you do at Fishawack, but all agencies are different and people should look around and so on. But the more we can talk about this openly, maybe the more we can learn from each other as well, which is what I like about this sort of thing. So thank you very much to you guys for coming and talking so openly about and clearly about what you're doing at Fishawack. To those in the audience today or watching the video, I do know that I can speak for all of you and say, do make contact via LinkedIn is the easy way to do it, or you put your emails and so on in the slides. But LinkedIn is a very easy way of reaching out. And part of the point of these webinars is to encourage people to make connections now. So I'm very keen that people do that. Okay. So thank you very much. If anyone's interested in what I'm doing at medcommsnetworking.com, go and have a look at it. Basically, you'll find lots and lots of information. And I'm very keen to hear from anybody who wants to have a chat with me about whatever I'm doing and what I can do to help. So thank you very much. I'm going to ask everyone to give us a quick wave now and say goodbye and look after yourselves in these very, very strange times. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.